your values and your morals change over time. So always try to reflect every couple of years on what are your actual values, because if one of your values isn't physical health, then you're not heading in the right direction.
Welcome to the Frontline Warriors Club, here with your hosts, Peter and Matt. This is a podcast where we live it, not in it. Join us on this mission to raise consciousness. For all information, you can find us at wearefrontlinewarriors.com. Now, let's take a moment to inhale, exhale, and let the show begin.
Thank you, guys. On this episode, we're going to talk about how we manage our lives physically, mentally, and spiritually. A lot of things go into staying well and being well. We just want to share with you the different approaches that we take to life to make sure that we are always performing at our optimum physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Yes, I love this episode. And just to kind of break down our lifestyle, so the most important thing out of everything is mindset, the mental aspect. If you don't have your screws on tight and correct in your brain, how can you be functioning and being a good product of society? So your beliefs, your thoughts, your emotions, everything come into play to control your mentality so you could actually be a good person, human in society. So mentality, it helps you have a perspective on life. A lot of times we have a specific viewpoint, specific opinion, and it's just all based on perception. So mindset is everything for that reason. And Peter and I are both very busy people. We have the podcast, we talk to different people, meetings, try to manage. We are full-time nurses. How do you do all that? So one thing I like doing is having a project management app, and I think you could use notes, reminders, whatever it is for you, Google Calendar. We personally like to use project management apps such as Asana or Notion, and we try to put everything on boards to understand where things are. I like to have a board for my personal life, for what we're doing with podcasting, because you are kind of brain dumping all this information on this board. So you never are stressed out that you forgot something. You basically drop all your notes there. And then once you have a different part of your life, whether it's maybe personal life, you could click on another board and see how things are going on. So this kind of helps you manage your thoughts. And you can do it with anything. You could do it with a pen, Apple Notes, just brain dump some things just to kind of give you some clarity of what's going on in your mind.
Yeah, try to stay organized. Like for me, organization has always been an issue. So sometimes for me, less is more, because like Matt said, there's a lot of apps that you can use, and we do use a lot of certain apps. But if you just stick to like one or two of them just to get started, that might help you just to, like Matt said, organize your thoughts, organize your day. Because a lot of times we have these great ideas, and then when it comes to it, we either don't do it or realize that we don't have enough time to do it, because maybe we have other things they have to upkeep. For example, like working out or something. Maybe we can't always fit that time into the gym. So using these apps allows you to kind of organize your time, and then eventually you could decrease some of the time or the workload, and you could fit those things that you want to do to kind of stay well. But since we're on the topic of apps and different things to help you out, we also use a lot of health apps. For example, we use the Whoop, we use MyFitnessPal for tracking macros, and then we also use the Renfo app, which is for our scaling our weight. So just, you don't have to have a lot of apps, so you don't have to like micromanage your life in these apps, because sometimes we do get caught up with micromanaging, and it does more harm than good, because you get too caught up in certain statistics, certain numbers, and you focus too much on these little minute details instead of focusing on this bigger thing and you changing better overall. You know, sometimes the small details don't matter as much as the big steps. Like for example, taking this to a gym aspect, maybe focusing on your weight might not be the best idea up front. Maybe just getting to the gym. Maybe decreasing body fat might not be the best approach when you're starting off. Maybe just going to the gym for half an hour, doing some cardio might be a better approach. So don't try to nitpick and fine tune these little things off the bat. Just get started with changing the easier and bigger picture things, and then overall other things will slowly fall into place.
Yes, and you could also, if you have trouble with habits, you could also habit stack. So if you like drinking a cup of coffee and you want to start reading more in a day, well, why don't you habit stack coffee drinking with reading a book for 15 minutes? And that can make things easier. Also, from like the mentality standpoint, I think this ties into spirituality as well. And this is a component of mindfulness. So one thing I like to do for that is I'm a huge proponent for journaling. So write your thoughts down, and this connects you to yourself, how your day was, but also from a spiritual standpoint, you could connect to God, the universe, however you use that word, and just be grateful or reflect thoughts, or maybe if you're seeking some answers or need something from that, you can drop it down to a journal. Same thing with meditation, right? We talk about productivity, but we need to unwind our mind as well. So if it's in the beginning of the day, 5 minutes, you don't have to do a 15-minute meditation to clear your mind. You could literally do it for 5 minutes in the morning. Breathe in. Tell yourself you're going to have a productive day. It could be your form of prayer as well, where you're being grateful. You have your hand on your chest, telling yourself you love yourself, you love God, or whatever it is. So these are different interchangeable habits that you could be using. We are just an example of how we live our lives. And you could take this with a grain of salt. You could apply it to your life and see what works.
Yeah, a good place to start is just assess your values. Just give an honest assessment to yourself. What are your values? What are your morals? What do you stand for? Of course, as we age and we go through different phases in life, you might believe in different things at different times. For example, I was born a Catholic. I grew up Catholic, and then there's a time in my life where I kind of stemmed away from the Catholic aspect. I dove a little bit into nihilism, Buddhism, and all those kind of things. So your values and your morals change over time. So always try to reflect every couple of years on what are your actual values, because if one of your values isn't physical health, then you're not heading in the right direction. If you don't put value on how you treat others, that's not a good place to be at either, because if you don't put any value on how to treat others, no one's going to treat you with care in that case. So it's really important to be well with your thoughts and be well with your values, especially with the group think now. People think you have to believe in what others believe. You have to say what others say. You have to agree with what others agree with. You don't have to do all that stuff. Just agree with yourself and make sure you're making the correct moral judgments when you are doing that. Like what is shaping your character? What shapes your values? Is it religion that shapes your values? Is it something else? Is it just the judgment of character? Like what really shapes you? Like ask yourself that question, meditate on it, and that's going to help you moving forward, because the way you impose your values on yourself and your thoughts is the way you're going to also look at other people. So the things that you value is you're going to reciprocate that to other people, because if you find a value in that, you're going to think that those people also find a value in the same thing. That's how you have good people in the world, because they like to be treated well, they like to be treated with care, and that's one of their values. They like to pass that value on to other people.
Yes. Speaking of faith and spirituality, I heard a really good joke this weekend that resonated with me. And the joke was like this. Do you want to hear God? Do you want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans. Because you, in this state of mind, thinks that you have all this planned out. You want things to unfold this way. And you're going to make God laugh because he has a different intention for you. And things usually don't go according to plan. And you're constantly adapting to life. And I really like that joke, because you have to trust yourself that where you are, what's happening is unfolding is the right thing for you. And that kind of goes to mentality where life is suffering and it also is overcoming suffering. So just find meaning in what you're going through life to make it easier for you. And just trust that from a spiritual standpoint, God has a plan for you. So whatever you have planned, just know that it might not go according to plan. Trust the process. Don't be resentful. Don't hate. The more that we try to control, the more we get anxious, the more we get stressed out. Just let it go. Let life go, and everything that unfolds that you think might be negative, because it might lead to something else that you don't know, because it's God's plan.
Yeah, very, very good point. Very, very well said. If you're one of those people that like to always nitpick everything in a plan and always have to have a plan going forward, what might help with you is don't focus so much on a plan. Maybe focus more on the goal. Set a goal, especially if you're that person that sets up these plans and yet you fail to accomplish those. Maybe you should be focused more on the goal than the plan, because you can have any kind of plan. Like, for example, if you're building a home, any kind of plan works to build a home if you think about it, except the way the home is going to turn out is going to look a little bit different. But as long as you're still approaching that goal, that's all that really matters. The plan can deviate, but as long as that goal doesn't deviate, then you're still on the right course and you're still doing yourself a really big favor.
Yeah, that was very hard for me to learn because I've always was trying to be controlling of the environment. This has to be done. And I've always was beating myself up for it. I didn't get this amount of done. I could have done more. It's always like that hustler mentality, but in a very negative way. Versus now my approach is like I wake up and tell myself sometimes today is going to be a great day. Whatever you get done, you're going to put 100% effort in it, and it's going to be enough. Versus reflecting back on a day and you had this invisible or this imaginary task list and things still weren't done, but that's okay. Were you productive? And that's another thing too, is like, how do you define productivity versus success? Because if you have a skewed viewpoint of what productivity means, that's also going to affect your mentality, because you're always going to be chasing the carrot that's always moving forward versus telling yourself, this is, a reflection here. Productivity doesn't mean always doing all these tasks. Productivity could mean you're tired. Maybe you need a little bit of an hour of self-care, or you have the urge to go to the gym. You have to put the work down. Go do that for yourself versus having this imaginary task list and just doing it constantly and stressing yourself out essentially.
Right, 100%. Yeah, since BOL is focused on the mind, body, and soul, so Matt, I have a question for you. How do you stay spiritually sound? Do you have certain practices that you do? Is there certain things you rely on for you to be spiritually happy, you could say?
Yeah, very good question, man. I just like to connect to myself and to God. I don't think it's a him, her. I think humans just have to, we have to create that figure sometimes, so relate to them like that. But if you want to use the universe, I just like to connect through my form of prayer. It could be form of meditation. Sometimes it's putting, my heart on my hand or my left hand on my stomach and just breathing in and just having my time for prayer in a way. And sometimes it could be through like journaling sometimes, where I had a rough day and you just document that rough day or whatever happened, but connecting back to God, like it's going to be okay, and having like a positive spin on it. So that's how I connect. And then whenever I have a chance, because just like you said, we have Catholic roots, I'll attend Mass, or a couple times when I was in Chicago here, I went to Mass with my parents, for example, because I know that makes them happy. And, whatever their beliefs are, I could still connect in my own way. So, yeah. How about yourself, man?
Let's keep things simple. I like to dive deep on certain topics when it comes to religion and stuff like that. Of course, there's a time and place for that. But after I'm done with that, 'cause I like to, venture on to different ideas, different topics, what happens when we die, all that kind of stuff. But that's just for fun, for sport, you could say. It's just interesting. But deep down inside, I'm pretty simple. I believe in that there's a God, there's a higher being, and there's something to look forward to after we die. So I view life in a spiritual sense is the way I like to be treated, is the way I reciprocate that on other people. So that's kind of my spiritual aspect is I kind of take my spirit and push it onto you. So I like like I said, I like certain things done like that I show love for myself, and that's the same I reciprocate. So that's my spiritual aspect of that. But as like a daily practice kind of thing, I do a little bit of meditation. I want to say I meditate probably every day in a sauna. I want to say 6 times a week, because I don't go to a gym 7 days a week. I go to 6. So that's my time in a sauna is spent there, because here at home I get a little bit preoccupied, a little bit busy, and I like to stay on task and do stuff. And in a sauna, it's a little bit easier for me to reflect on myself and my actions, or maybe if somebody made me upset or I made somebody upset, because it's almost like a little bit of a struggle, because you're really hot in the sauna, you're really warm. So it's a physical task and a mental task, and for some reason that allows me to bring on better focus in myself, because my physical body is preoccupied with feeling the burn, and my mental mind is preoccupied with something else. Because sometimes my physical body gets a little bit underwhelmed, you could say, and I gotta do stuff. I gotta move around. A little bit of ADHD kicks in physically, and this way my body is busy, and I can focus more on my thoughts and reflect and all that kind of stuff. It's like a kind of weird perspective, you could say, but as long as my body is physically busy, that almost allows me to have a better sense of thought.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all consciousness. It's all tools to get us there. Just like people use, I don't want to say drinking, but people have different drugs, whatever they do, practices, journaling. It's just all tools to connect to ourselves. And just to kind of wrap up the spirituality part, Viktor Frankl always said that hope is one of the most fundamental things for humans. So just you believing in something as a higher power and anybody listening, that automatically gives you hope and faith where whatever stress you have, you give it onto somebody. That is such a great form of living, because you believe in something where you could just energetically put something in a cubicle where you don't have to worry about it, because something is worrying about it for you. So if you believe in nothing, I think that's really rough, to be honest, because you just take it all onto you. Like, you're this human and nothing else exists, so you have to deal with it.
Yeah, but it's also the flip side where it's like nothing else exists. So just right now is what matters, and this is the only life you have, and nothing after. So on the flip side, it could make you a really good human being too, because it's almost like you have this one life, and this is the only value you have is this one life. So why would you not want to treat the people with kindness and with goodness from your heart if this is the only time you have spent together? So it's like it's not about what you believe in necessarily. It's the way you practice it, almost in a sense, because there's probably some people that worship Satan that you think are bad people, but they're really good people. They just believe in Satanism or whatever. I want to, like things like that. So it's like, it kind of comes down to like what matters more. Is it the thought that counts more? Or is it the actions that counts more? Because we always hear on the news about Catholics or religious people that are persecuting others, which is anti what their doctrine believes. So it's not the theory or the belief that shapes the person. It's the person that shapes themselves and their actions. There's no good or bad, you could say. Just like we always mention, there just is.
Yeah, it's not binary. There is that gray area. It's not 0 and 1s, and it's just exactly. I think, just like you mentioned, it's action over thoughts. Show me how you live your life. If you are good with homeless people, or you take care of the waiters, that shows that you don't belittle people, that you are equal to other people, and you are respectful.
Yeah, so Matt, then question number 2 would be the mental aspect. So how do you stay mentally sound? And just so it's kind of an interesting question, because this could also tie into back to spirituality. So just so we kind of are on the same page. So by me asking you, like, how do you maintain your mentality is more of like, how do you stay mentally sound? How do you progress in your mind? So for example, I'll give you an example for me is I like to learn. I like to learn new things. It's almost like I use my mind as a muscle. So by me learning new things, that's how I stay mentally sound. I try different things. I learn new things. I read new types of books. I look at different literatures. I take different routes to certain places. That's how I optimize my mind, you could say. So is there something that you do similarly, or what do you do to optimize yourself mentally? Not so much as a spiritual aspect, but just as like the strict mental focus.
Yeah. I'll do 2 components here, because I do the whole coaching stuff with the mindset stuff. So I'm continuously being a lifelong learner and healing myself, right? So things come up to the surface because there's layers of the subconscious mind, and I try to, little things trigger me in my day, and I try to take time to understand what it is, how it came up because of my past, and I try to work around it, reframe it so it doesn't affect me. Because if I'm jealous all day about something, it's gonna weigh me down energetically. So I try to always like clear my tank with that, in a sense. And then the second component of it is just being a lifelong learner, right? So whatever I'm taking risk, stepping outside of my comfort zone, doing things that excite me, going inch by inch, even though maybe today was a rough day, I stepped out of my comfort zone, and I know that I'm getting towards, my goal inch by inch. For example, going to jiu-jitsu, I'm learning a new move, or I'm reading a book from a chapter, and I'm just learning things. I think that's the most exciting thing, just like you mentioned, which we could relate, is growth. I value growth in whatever aspect it is. As long as there's growth happening that day, it makes me happy, it keeps me sane, and I know that I'm progressing towards goodness.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing when you realize that, because in school we think of learning as, okay, I have to go to class, learn physics, learn math, but then when you get older you realize that life is just a giant lesson that you have to learn. And the more things you try, the stronger you get mentally. You become more resilient. You don't get as depressed. You don't get as sad, because it's almost like your body just learns to adapt naturally. It just, you get, like you mentioned multiple times in prior episodes, you get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And when you are comfortable with the uncomfortable, then you are never really uncomfortable. You are never, of course you have sad moments, but you're never truly depressed, because you being sad is uncomfortable, but you're okay with that uncomfortableness, because you know it's going to pass. And that's just here for the time being. So that's why people have to, you have to be a lifelong what is it called?
Lifelong learner.
Lifelong learner, yeah. That's why you have to try new things, explore different places, especially like traveling outside of a country to a different country besides the United States. That teaches you a lot, because they don't speak English there always. You could travel outside or inside the United States, but you're still not going to get as much of a learning lesson as you are traveling somewhere else that people don't speak your language, because you're just so used to it. You're so comfortable in being able to communicate everything you want so clearly. But when you leave this comfort and go somewhere else where you're like, wow, I can't even ask for a glass of water, it's completely mind-blowing. So that's one of the most uncomfortable things you could do, is traveling somewhere where nobody understands you. And that's going to break down a lot of barriers, because if you could figure out how to survive that and be happy and enjoy that, if it kind of, you could say a vacation of stress, for example, then you could relax and have a vacation anywhere. Your life is forever a vacation.
Yes, and that's going to be a huge mindset thing there too, is so much things are going to come to the surface when you're traveling to a different country. Even if you're solo traveling, that's even another thing. You're going to get triggered. You're going to maybe put yourself down. You're going to lose your confidence. But over there is going to be an opportunity. It's going to be a gift to just learn everything about yourself. So yeah, 100% for anybody that's listening, go travel. It teaches you so much.
Yeah, or someone just try new things. Matt and I, we went to nursing school. We're career nurses, but yet we started a blog. We started a podcast. We have an app going on. And this is completely outside of the whole nursing realm. And if Matt and I always stayed nurses, stayed niched down to healthcare, we would have never had the chance to venture to the other ideas that we have. And we've learned so much through those ventures, through those ideas, through those, you could say, hobbies that we have now, that helps us grow as nurses and as human beings. So just anything at all, as long as you're doing something different on a mental level, you're progressing. You're going to be better the next day than you were the day before. And that's a beautiful thing, because your brain is a sponge, especially when you're younger, because we do age, and there becomes a certain point where you reach a certain age and learning becomes tough. And that's kind of where you have your new baseline. And we see that a lot with our older patients that we deal with. So just to bring it to a perspective of nursing, that's what we really have. And like, it shows you that you reach a certain point in life where you can't learn as much. And people always have regrets of wish they would have done that, wish they would have tried this. And now you can't, because there's going to be a time where you're 60 years old, and guess what? Rock climbing might not be an option for you. You might have a DVT, and you can't go on a plane for long periods of time. So flying out of the country for 8 hours might not be a chance for you to do it again. So just keep changing it up. We say routine is important, but also stepping out of that routine is also important as well. So you have to find that nice balance. And of course, some people prefer a strict routine, which is okay. But don't forget to venture out to this routine. And some people like chaos, but yeah, remember, you have to come back to that routine as well. It's a balance of both.
I love that, because now we could talk about the physicality standpoint of Be Well. And I love that you mentioned you don't always have to be in a routine, because if you tell yourself every single morning to wake up, meditate for 10 minutes, go for a walk, sit down and do this, and if you don't do it, you're not going to have a productive day, you're not going to have mental clarity, that's also coming from fear. Just understand that you're very adaptable, and if today you don't want to go for a walk or meditate, you want to go just work out to the gym, that's okay, and you just have to believe that you're still going to have a great day. And that's why these beliefs are so powerful, because if you have this strict routine and you're operating out of it, it's almost like you put yourself in that routine out of fear, because you need this to have your body to be optimized or work a specific way, So yeah, when it comes to physicality, there's sleep, and there's nutrition, and there's exercise. I don't think I missed anything else, right?
No, that's about it.
Okay, so we like to get our sleep. You work night shifts, you have a completely different routine here. I try to sleep 7 hours. I think that's a good baseline to get me functioning. Usually sometimes I like to wake up, drink some ginger water with lemon, some warm water, stretch around. There's days I'll go for a walk. There's days I'll go work out. For example, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. there's a jiu-jitsu class, so I'll go do that. But that's the premise. Wake up, feel good. You can do some meditation, journaling. You create that routine. Just prioritize self-care and then have time blocks for grinding. And you could have another routine where you unwind for the nighttime. So you need to feel good. You need to work hard, whether it's work, entrepreneurship, whatever you're doing, but take time to also unwind, whether it's reading a book, taking time to maybe taking a bubble bath once a week or whatever it is. Just find your fine-tuning. And I know also you mentioned like calorie counting and stuff like that. So that's something that I'll try to do here and there. Sometimes I just use my hands. Okay, this looks like a good amount of meat. But that scale has been the best thing I've done for a long time. So we have the Reno app. So just get a Bluetooth scale that has an app. You download it. And if you don't like tracking calories, or you want to stay in shape, or you want to cut, whatever the case might be, you could step on that scale and just see where your progress is. So if you are somebody that maybe doesn't like calorie counting, well, you wake up this morning and you gained 1.5 pounds. Okay, well, today I need to maybe not eat out or skip a meal or kind of cut down because of whatever your proportions you ate last day. Clearly it didn't serve you. You were in calorie excess. So just maintaining your body like that.
Yeah, and you don't have to go balls deep into all this. You don't have to track your macros every day. You don't have to have a year-long workout routine plan with a change in workout every 3 weeks. You don't have to go that deep into it. Just look at your goals. What are your goals? What are you looking to do? Start small, because there's no reason for you to track your macros if you're not trying to, let's say, gain a certain amount of muscle or lose a certain amount of body weight on like a strict number. For example, if your goal is to lose 6% body fat in 3 months, that's going to require you to track your weight, track your workout, track your macros. But you don't have to go that niche down. There's really no reasons for you to do that. If you can have a simple goal, as in just, for example, lose weight. Losing weight, you got to do 2 simple things: work out and get your nutrition on point. So what's going to help you with that is elimination diet and just getting your ass in the gym. You don't have to, in theory, track anything. You just have to devote the time and just get your diet on point. But if you really want to take it to the next step, we always recommend the more you track, the more data you have, the more data you collect, the more data you could change. So if you want to track your workouts like we do with our Whoop, you could do that. But if you don't have, for example, a goal of betting your cardio, you don't really have to do that. That's all just extra stuff. Just stay simple. I feel like, Matt, for us, the physical aspect of this came pretty easily, of the Be Well pillar. The physicalness and nutrition came pretty easy to us. The one that we struggled with the most was the mental and spirituality, just because of the way we were raised and our beliefs. So nutrition came pretty easy to us because we went to nursing with the goal of being already health oriented. And we tried different diets from an early age. I think we were like 19 years old and we were already tracking our gym routines and what we eat and all that kind of stuff. So we started that early on. That wasn't really a big of a struggle for us as it is for most people. So that luckily was on our side. It's the other things that we struggled with. But when we were first starting off, I know that we both tried to nail down a good fitness program. And once we nailed down a good fitness program, we saw some results. Then went to step 2, was more of the macro counting. And then once nailed down the macro, it was like, hey, we understand that the way our body breaks down nutrients is in this fashion. First, it breaks down carbs, then it breaks down fats, then it breaks down proteins. Okay, so if I want to lose fat, well, then guess what? I have to decrease my fat, I have to decrease my carbs, so that way, I have to decrease my carbs, that way the fat gets burned. Because if your body doesn't have any carbs to burn, it's going to switch to burning fat, you're going to go into ketosis and all that kind of stuff. So we dove pretty deep, and it was actually it was very educational. We learned a lot about our bodies, about not only necessarily nutrition, but our different body types. Like we have a similar struggle. We both, I think we usually have an issue of changing weight. Like I always, for some reason, I always gravitate to this weight, and you always gravitate to your weight. So when we try to gain weight or lose weight, it's always a difficult process. So your body's always gonna want to gravitate towards a certain way. Like I'm in the 150s, and I have to try really hard to hit the 160s, and I gotta try really hard to go anywhere below 150s because for some reason, Even if I adjust my macros a little bit, my body stays the same way it wants to stay, and it kind of is what it is. And when it comes to the is what it is.
Say like in Chicago, like 185 has been the thing, man. It's just my body just loves it.
Right, yeah, it just loves it, and it's the way it is. And then you have to focus more on body recomposition, where it's like, okay, I'm stuck at 185. How can I get myself bigger by staying at 185? Because for some reason my body likes this 185 weight, so let's change up these macros. Then you could go niche down. What's really helpful for us that we've been probably doing for last year was probably the Renfro scale, because of course it tracks your body fat percentage, it tracks your muscle mass, it tracks how much water you have. But remember, this is a scale that you're stepping on, so numbers aren't going to be the most accurate thing in the world. What we like to look at is trends. So if your body fat is decreasing in a trend, it means you're for sure losing body fat. Even though you might not have the exact numbers, it's trending down. So you're for sure losing something. So the physical portion of this, it's all up to you how niche down you want to get. But a good starting point is just going to the gym for at least an hour a day, lifting some weights, not just cardio, lift some weights, because you need that skeletal muscle strength too, for health reasons, not just for the physique. But lift some weights, try to hit it an hour. So that means if you step in the door to the gym at 9 a.m., your workout starts at 9:30, it doesn't mean you're working out for half an hour. It means like when you start working out, you did an hour. So it means your ass goes to the gym at 9 and you don't start working out till 9:30. Well, then your ass is working out till 10:30. Devote your time to that. It's for your health. Nutrition standpoint, easiest thing to do in the world. Matt, you stress it all the time, is get rid of those processed sugars, those processed foods. That's going to be the biggest blessing to nutrition, to your diet. And it's probably going to give you a bigger change than the gym is. Nutrition is the hardest thing to change for most people. It is for us as well. The gym seems to be a more easier part, because once you're there working out. But diet, you're the one going shopping. You're the one looking at this food. So for diet, you have to A, not buy the food, and B, not eat the food. So that's like two things you got to focus on, versus the gym is just showing up.
Yeah. And if you buy something, buy it in moderation, where maybe if you love your ice cream, just buy one tub for the week and understand that you could kind of space it out, or don't buy it at all. So then you don't have those urges. You're better off going get ice cream for a cheat day once a week versus having that ice cream in your fridge and then you nibble on it throughout the day for, let's just say, 3-4 days. And now you have those sugar spikes and whatever might happen. You ruin your body more, essentially.
Yeah. And what's also been a really big blessing is intermittent fasting. Because that almost changed our relationship with food. Because when you go to do intermittent fasting and you're fasting for 16 hours, there comes a point, I want to say like probably 2 or 3 weeks when you're doing it, you don't view food the same. You don't view food as something that's pleasurable to eat for the taste buds. It's like fuel. Like it's like, oh shit, I only have X amount of hours to eat, so I have to get this good fuel. It's almost like you're getting gas for your car. Like you don't put unleaded in BMW, you put premium, right? And that fuel is better. So that's like the same theory. You switch your viewpoint, and the quality of nutrition improves, because you know that, hey, maybe this junk food, all these fruits that I've been eating all day might not be the best. Maybe I got to substitute some more protein for it, some lean meats. And you develop this relationship where it's not just like satisfaction, it's fuel. And that's a beautiful thing. And what I also noticed when I did my carnivore diet and my keto diet is that when you decrease the carbs and sugars out of your diet, and then you hold that diet for a couple weeks or a couple months or however long you want, fruits start to taste better, and you don't crave those ice creams and things like that. Because if you don't eat carb for such a long time, when you first get that carb back in your system, it tastes so damn good. So if you're going to try to like lose weight or throw your body into ketosis or try to keto diet, try it for a little bit. And then the first carb you should eat after a good stretch is a fruit. Don't do like a hamburger or bread or ice cream, because you're going to have that fruit and you're like, damn, this fruit tastes so sweet, it tastes so good. And you're going to be less prone to eating ice cream because you realize how good this fruit tastes. And next time you're going to go for a snack, you're going to grab that fruit instead of the ice cream, because you almost reprogram your body into loving that fruit more than loving your ice cream more. Even though the ice cream is sweeter, you just prefer the fruit because that's the thing you tasted after a long fast, you could say, or a long break from carbs.
Yeah, it's reprogramming. And briefly touching about fasting, you hear all these beneficial studies, like people water fast for 3-4 days. It reverses cancer, all their GI problems, whatever the case might be. So why not do intermittent fasting where at least you're giving your body a break to digest? All the animals do it, so why just because just the fact that we live in consumerism, it's better to prove humans that they need to eat 6 meals a day so they can make more profits. So who knows the nutritional studies that we have now? Is it even based on science when you hear all this fraud and everything else? Just like the amyloid theory got debunked with Alzheimer's, that they faked the studies, they faked the CT scan images, whatever happened. So we've done a lot of research, we've done a lot of experimenting with our bodies, and intermittent fasting is not a bad thing. Even if you take 10 hours, it's going to help you optimize your nutrition, make your body feel better, reverse insulin resistance, and everything else.
Especially if you do nights. Like for nights, if your body is so messed up, so much in disequilibrium, the best thing that we've noticed is try to stay on a day schedule as much as possible. And fasting has definitely helped a lot. Because a lot of people say, how am I going to fast if I'm working 12 hours? Well, just because you're working 12 hours doesn't mean you have to fast all that 12 hours. For example, like myself, is I go into work at 7 p.m. and I stop eating at around midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning, depending on how my shift is going. Of course, I like to ideally stop eating at midnight, but it doesn't always happen. Sometimes you get busy. It is what it is. So you can always adjust your fasting schedule, but I try to be as normal as possible working nights and changing up your diet where you're not eating at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. That helps out a lot, because now your body is more in homeostasis. So I always recommend fasting to people. And like I said, you don't have to fast all 12 hours of your work shift from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. You don't have to do all that. Start at a reasonable time. Just make sure you're not eating majority of the night. Just devote a few hour time slots in the beginning for you to eat. And it's just as simple as that. And you have to just put in the work. The physical aspect of be well is you putting in the work. Same with the mental aspect, as you could say, is also putting in the work, but mentally. Be well is just about you just laying down the law for yourself and just putting in the effort, putting in the time, and know that you're doing this for a good cause, because your body's a temple, and no one wants to have a temple that falls apart after a year or two.
Yes, I love this. Completely agree with you. And just realize that all three of these things get affected in different ways. Peter and I have our nutrition down. We have to work more on the mentality part of the spiritual side. So assess where your needs are in your life for the Be Well pillar and accommodate as so. And understand that your body, and in general, just like the universe, nature, it's continuously changing and in cycles. It's never standing static or constant. Same thing with your mental, physical, and spiritual. There's 3 dots and they move around left to right, good and bad, essentially. So that's all I just wanted to say, but thank you guys for listening to the episode of how we manage our physical, mental, and spiritual lives. Hope you guys enjoyed.
Yep. And don't forget to share with us on how you stay well and be well and have a good time, guys.
Peace. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show and want to support the podcast,
please subscribe, leave us a comment, or give us a like on all platforms
at We Are Frontline Warriors.